very much, and good afternoon. After a long time apart, it is so wonderful to be back together again in this beautiful facility to celebrate the history makers of the sport we love. What a pleasure to welcome this year's inductees to the National Soccer Hall of Fame and their family and friends, the returning members of the Hall of Fame, all of you at every level of FC Dallas and the National Soccer Hall of Fame, the board and staff of U.S. Soccer, to those of you here today as supporters of our wonderful sport, and to those of you watching online around the U.S. and the world. I welcome all of you to Frisco, Texas, the home of U.S. soccer history, for the National Soccer Hall of Fame induction for the classes of 2020 and 2021. Of course, induction is not the final chapter for so many of our soccer greats. Many Hall of Famers continue to add to their legacy and drive our sport forward in the role they play in soccer organizations across the nation. Our first speaker comes from the class of 2018. That was the first class to be inducted in this room. In 2020, she became president of U.S. Soccer. Please join me in welcoming National Soccer Hall of Famer Cindy Parlow-Cone.
Thank you all for being here. I'm so grateful to have this event in person. I know it's been a long 18 months. I want to do a special thank you to Jorn for all that you and your staff have done to put this amazing event on. Thank you to FC Dallas. Oh yeah, let's give Jorn a round of applause and his team. Thank you to FC Dallas and to Dan and Clark Hunt, for without you, none of this would be possible. You're not going to clap for them? What you have helped create here is just truly fantastic. So to the Hunt family, thank you. I'd like to recognize a few groups that are here tonight. First of all the Hall of Famers. Can you please stand up? It is such an honor to wear this jacket and to be a part of the soccer family in the U.S. The next group, the NASL former players, please stand up. Thank you for all you've done for our game. When I look out and see all the people here, it's truly remarkable to see so many people in this room that have given so much for this game we all love. Whether it was on the field like Carlos, Jaime, Steve, Kobe, or Kevin, who has spent countless hours growing soccer in our country, or Andrés, who has worked thousands upon thousands of games and has connected and entertained during an unbelievable career. And there's Don and the Hunts, Ed, Sunil, and I could go on and on. We've all done so much, and we should be proud of that. But when I think about the past couple of days, it reminds me how much we still need to do, can do, and must do. The situations that have happened within the NWSL are horrendous. We all should be appalled and saddened and just downright angry. I know I am. We each have to do everything in our power to ensure that our players are safe, are heard, and believed. This is not just an NWSL problem or just a women's soccer problem. I also know that tonight is a special moment. It's special because all of us get to be in the same room together with people who have contributed so much to our game. From those who have built our game to those who are currently making an important impact. Tonight is about celebrating what is good in our game, especially our amazing inductees who should be celebrated and honored. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy. If you had to pinpoint a single reason why we're gathered here in North Texas today at Toyota Stadium, the home of FC Dallas, it is because of the deep-rooted passion for soccer in the Hunt family. A legacy started by Lamar Hunt, continued by his sons, and supported by many of you here in this room, brings us here to the National Soccer Hall of Fame's brick and mortar home. Right now, please welcome to the stage FC Dallas Chairman and CEO Clark Hunt and FC Dallas President Dan Hunt.
Mark, I got to start with asking you, are we going to retire this suit and put it in the trophy case back there?
It depends on if we win tonight.
All right, there you go. I'll take it. We will retire it. I just want to say a quick thank you for everybody being here today at the most personalized experience in professional sports. This is something that we are incredibly proud of, opened up in 2018, and I'm proud to say that we've welcomed guests now from all 50 states here and many international guests also. The experience that's been put together with NEC, allowing each person to have a customized experience as they walk through, and I see Kobe Jones right here, and I got to juggle with you on the screen when we opened it. I can't encourage you enough to go and partake in the whole experience. It's quite unique, it's quite different, it's quite special. And we did this because, you know, this is a labor of love. We love the game of soccer, and not having a home for all the people that have given so much to the game of soccer just didn't sit right with Clark and myself. And you guys and gals that have changed the game and changed the landscape, you know, we're thrilled that you have a place you can call home. So this is a really special place. I can't encourage you enough to enjoy it. And I would be remiss if I didn't say a special thank you to U.S. Soccer for believing in us. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the city of Frisco for being an incredible partner. And also the school district participated in this amazing building. And we have this great partnership here in Frisco, Texas that allows us to do things like this. We hope you have a wonderful afternoon. And I do need to say two more thank yous. As you see our jackets over here, I'm proud to acknowledge that we had 5 homegrown partners. FC Dallas is famous for developing homegrown soccer players, but we have 5 local minority-owned businesses. And this is Reveal Suits, is one of our 5 partners, and Carlton Dixon. Let's give it up for Carlton back here. And we're so proud of what you're doing and what you accomplished, and recently also did the jackets for the Basketball Hall of Fame, which is an amazing thing. And then lastly, I'd like to thank my staff for putting on such an amazing event. Jordan, you are an unbelievable caretaker here, and there are so many people, and also my assistant, Crystal DeLeon, wherever you are. I haven't seen you in, there you are. I haven't seen you in weeks, but I appreciate all of your hard work on making this such a great event. So thank you guys for being here, and it's my great pleasure to introduce my brother, my best friend, my partner, Clark Hunt, who is CEO and Chairman of FC Dallas.
Dan, thanks very much. I was going to make fun of Mark's suit as well, but you covered that already. But if it gets us a win, I'm going to get one of those, I tell you that. It's so great to be back in person, as Dan alluded to, and be here with all of you, so many of you who have contributed so much to the growth of soccer, not only in recent years, but going back decades to some of our NASL legends. It's great to have the past inductees back. You guys make an important connection with our inductee class that's about to go into the Hall of Fame, and it's so great that you would come back to help celebrate them. The mission of the National Soccer Hall of Fame is to honor those who have given the greatest contributions to the sport of soccer in the United States, and this group of honorees certainly has done just that. We are excited to honor inductees from both the 2020 and 2021 classes this afternoon. The class of 2020 includes Carlos Bocanegra, who was a staple in the U.S. men's national team, wearing the captain's armband 64 times. Andrés Cantor, the world-renowned sports broadcaster known for his iconic goal call, will receive the 2020 Colin Jose Media Award this afternoon. And Andres, I was goaded to try to imitate your goal call, and I'm going to pass on it because I don't want to ruin it for the group. The class of 2021 includes one of the U.S. national team's all-time greats, Steve Cherundolo, who spent his entire club career at Hanover and played every minute for the United States in the 2010 World Cup. Jaime Moreno, a Major League Soccer legend, a four-time MLS Cup champion, and a five-time MLS Best XI selection, all with DC United. And finally, Kevin Payne, a pioneer in the sport in the United States, who I had the pleasure of working alongside for many, many years. Under his leadership, DC United won the MLS Championship 4 times, becoming the most successful team in the early days of the league. Let's give all of them a round of applause. We look forward to honoring you guys this afternoon. Thank you for your many contributions to the game we love, and congratulations on your induction into the National Soccer Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clark and Dan. Just remember the theme of the day is that FC Dallas and Kansas City Chiefs, their primary color is red. And if you aren't part of the Red Jacket Club, then you wear the next closest thing to being part of the Red Jacket Club. All right, the stars of today's ceremony, of course, are the incoming Hall of Famers who will be joining said Red Jacket Club very shortly. But as we celebrate American soccer history, we also recognize those who entered this hall first. Today, we welcome these returning members of the National Soccer Hall of Fame. Please stand and be recognized as I say your name, and please hold your applause until the end for all of the returning Hall of Famers. From the class of 2006, Al Trost. From the class of 2007, Bobby Smith. From the class of 2011, Kobe Jones. From the class of 2017, Dr. Joe Macknick. From the class of 2018, Cindy Parlow-Cohn and Don Garber. From the class of 2019, Sunil Gulati. And Colin Jose Media Award winner, Seamus Mallon. I need to be like Cindy. Now's where you can applaud. Work the room. Finally, we want to recognize a very special Hall of Famer to all of us in the FC Dallas family. Please join us in welcoming Martha, Jonathan, and Nico Clavijo, the family of Fernando Clavijo, class of 2005. Thank you all for joining us. As we recognize those who blaze the trails on which we travel, we will now take a moment to remember Albert Colon, the first executive director of the National Soccer Hall of Fame, and Hall of Famers Alex Eli, Bob Herman, and Reinhold Spath. Their legacy will live on forever. As a soccer play-by-play announcer, it is an enormous privilege for me to begin today's star-studded list of honorees with an iconic play-by-play announcer who is this year's recipient of the Colin Jose Media Award, Andrés Cantor. If it's true what they say, that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, there is not a more flattered man at announcing of any sport than Andrés Cantor. Because whether you're from Andrés' home, Argentina, or Aguascalientes, or Alaska, and you love soccer, at some point you've sat at home and you've watched a game and you've yelled "Goal" for as long and as loudly as you can. Born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Andrés Cantor started his career in his native country before breaking on to the North American soccer scene in the run-up to the 1990 FIFA World Cup. Cantor has covered U.S. soccer since the beginning of the men's national team's modern era. He was the only Hispanic reporter on the sideline in Trinidad in 1989 when the team qualified for its first World Cup in more than 30 years. By the way, the shoe that scored that goal was on the foot of Paul Caligiuri, and that shoe is in the floor here at the Hall of Fame about 25 feet in front of me. He's covered the last 8 men's World Cups, the last 2 women's World Cups, and double-digit Olympic Games dating back to 1984 for Univision, Telemundo, NBC, and the Fútbol de Primera radio network. Cantor is currently the lead play-by-play announcer for Telemundo Deportes, and also was Telemundo's lead host for the 2018 World Cup. He's been on the mic for some of U.S. soccer's most memorable moments, such as Landon Donovan's iconic goal versus Algeria at the 2010 World Cup, and Carly Lloyd's hat trick in the 2015 World Cup final. From 2002 to 2014, he was the Spanish-language radio voice of the Men's World Cup for his Fútbol de Primera radio network. He has hosted the daily Primera football program and has also broadcasted various other prominent tournaments, including the CONCACAF Gold Cup and the Copa America. Andrés is the first Colin Jose honoree to work primarily for Spanish-language media organizations. Andrés was also on English-language play-by-play broadcast of men's soccer and the 2020 Tokyo Olympics this past summer. I've always said about being a play-by-play announcer, if I don't sound like I have a passion for that day's game happening in front of me that I'm broadcasting, then how can I expect someone sitting on the couch at home to care about it? Andrés Cantor has made a lot of people sitting on their couches at home care more because of his passion for this wonderful game of football. Let's watch and, most importantly, listen to this video about Andrés Cantor.
Bendito sea el fútbol. No podría ser otro el escenario.
I always say that I never invented anything. I mean, this is the way we feel for the game throughout Latin America. We are very passionate about the game, more than anybody in the world, I think. And I grew up listening to the broadcast on the radio, which was more popular than TV, and all the radio announcers would call the goals the same. So it's pretty much kind of embedded in my DNA because every soccer broadcast in Latin America calls the goals with a little more or less passion than I do.
Es verdad, porque es como la música, es una cuestión de sentimiento. Cuando se juega una Copa del Mundo se paraliza nuestros países, se paraliza el mundo porque es una cuestión de arraigo popular. El fútbol es el deporte más popular en todo el planeta Tierra.
Se lo perdió Raíz y ahora de contragolpe Donovan. Se le va larga Donovan. La quiere por derecha Alquinos. Al área viene. Y le cita con el arquero. Donovan, ¡gol!
Actually, I almost fainted. I was very lucky to be in this country and to introduce perhaps a different way of celebrating the biggest moment of your lives and of fans around the world's lives.
no play-by-play announcer, or narrador, has done more to grow this beautiful game. And so it is my indescribable honor to welcome Andrés Cantor to the stage to receive the Colin Jose Media Award.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you, Mark. Never mind about the jacket. It's beautiful. I won one, double XL. I want to thank the National Soccer Hall of Fame and U.S. Soccer for this incredible recognition. To now be part of a list of friends and colleagues who have won the Colin Jose Media Award is a great honor. To the Hunt family, thank you for all that you have done for soccer in our country, for this wonderful building, for your FC Dallas organization, for the history, living history of your family and legacy of your family in this incredible National Soccer Hall of Fame. Also, my congratulations to Christy, Steve, Jaime, Carlos, and Kevin for their well-deserved induction in the Hall of Fame. To be the first Hispanic broadcaster to be inducted in the National Soccer Hall of Fame is so special to me, but it's also a reminder that soccer is a sport of passion, and passion transcends language. I have been around the game for a long time and have loved U.S. soccer from day one. In 1994, I coined the phrase La Selección de Todos, which literally means everyone's national team, in reference to the U.S. team led by Bora Milutinovic. Everyone's national team means that all immigrants who live in the U.S. have their hearts divided between the team of their country of birth and the U.S. national teams, because, after all, we owe this country a great deal. I am so happy to be able to share this moment and relive my ride in U.S. soccer with key people in my life. My connection, as Mark said, with U.S. soccer dates back to the late 80s. Then in 1990, when Alex Goodman, my business partner in Football de Primera, created the Honda Player of the Year award that many of you probably attended, we wanted to recognize the best U.S. national team player at a time when it was hard for any fan to name more than a handful of players. For 20 years, we put a lot of love to make the Player of the Year the most coveted award for the U.S. national team players. It also allowed us to create a great bond with all the players, coaches, and executives. Then in 1994, my career took off thanks to the incredible attention my style of calling games attracted. Alongside my dear friend Jorge Hidalgo, who commandeered the World Cup coverage, we almost single-handedly put Univision on the national landscape. Today, Hispanic TV audiences are at an all-time high for the U.S. national team games. I said way back then I was moved by the attention I was getting, but foremost, I was very happy to contribute to making soccer in America a little bit more popular. Through the notoriety of my goal calls, I think I did that in that 1994 World Cup, and I was very happy for the game. And with Jorge, we worked together for 20 years with laughs and fights by contributing to making the best television in Spanish. He largely accomplished that. I know what you're thinking, that of course I was happy for myself because after the 1994 World Cup came the endorsements, the Simpsons, the movies. I like to joke that if it were not for my dear friend and lifetime agent Raul Mateo, I could be retired by now. Raul has been instrumental in helping navigate my career, making sure that any sponsorships that came our way were not only good for my reputation, but also protected the integrity of the game. He has been my consigliere both in my life and in my professional life, and I could not be in better hands. Then 2000 came in, and I had the good fortune of receiving an offer from Dick Ebersol to call the Sydney Games in English for NBC. I called both men's and women's soccer to be the first broadcaster to cross over to the English language. This summer in Tokyo, as Mark said, I called the game again in English, and I am looking forward to do some more Premier League play-by-play for NBC Sports. I am ever grateful to NBC, the parent company of Telemundo, my second home. Every day I realize how lucky I am. I have called more than 6,000 games, both in TV and radio, and in almost 35 years, for the last 2 decades, Telemundo has trusted me to be their main voice in the best games, tournaments, and shows, and to be able to connect to fans across the US regardless of language. Telemundo Deportes is like my second family, and since I am probably the oldest, no, I shouldn't say that, let me rephrase, the more experienced, I am able to share this honor today with Eli Velasquez, whom I saw grow from tape librarian in 1990 to executive VP of sports at Telemundo. I humbly accept this recognition on behalf of all the people that have worked with me on and off camera, both in radio and TV, and in a moment like this, I have a special thought for my late broadcast partner, Norberto Longo, with whom we forged an unsurpassed talent team. Also, to the public, thank you for accepting me in your homes for so many years. Being conservative at 2 goals per game, I probably call more than 12,000 goals. And it is only fitting that 2 of my most memorable ones had to do with US soccer. Landon Donovan's goal against Algiers and Carly Lloyd's hat-trick at midfield goal in the 2015 FIFA World Cup final that I called live in Vancouver. I left the most important acknowledgement to the end because I knew I was going to get more emotional than I am already. To be inducted today in the National Hall of Fame in the presence of my parents, David and Alicia, my brother Gerard, and my sister-in-law Nisa, my 2 sons, Nico and Andrea, Nico's girlfriend Mariana, and my wife Lily, is a priceless blessing. Lily stood by me through thick and thin, went alone to birthday parties, school events, to all weekend festivities. She was and is always there for me, and also my wonderful kids, without any regrets. Nothing of anything I achieved in my career would have been possible without you, your full-fledged support and understanding. Andrea, Nico, Lily, know that all the sacrifices I had to make in my career were made for you and you alone. The fact that my name will live forever in this building is proof that it was all worth it. It is extremely moving, and I want to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart.
Talented broadcasters are good at making you get emotional. Our first inductee today is from the class of 2020, Carlos Bocanegra, a resolute defender, who led on and off the field. Carlos Bocanegra was selected as one of the U.S. men's national team's all-time best 11 for the U.S. Soccer Federation's centennial year in 2013. A member of the Century Club, Bocanegra wore the captain's armband for 64 of his 110 caps. His 14 goals for the United States and 5 goals in World Cup qualifiers are still men's national team records for a defender. On the international stage, Carlos contributed to CONCACAF Gold Cup title runs, the thrilling Confederations Cup win over Spain in 2009, and played in 2 World Cups, appearing in 6 matches, including the unforgettable win over Algeria in 2010 that sent the U.S. from the group stage through to the knockouts. At the club level, Carlos made an immediate impact upon joining Chicago Fire in 2000, winning multiple individual awards and helping the Chicago Fire twice lift the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup and twice reach MLS Cup. After the 2003 season, Bocanegra went to Fulham, where he starred at Craven Cottage alongside fellow American Brian McBride for 4 years, and also played with countrymen Clint Dempsey, Casey Keller, and Eddie Johnson. In all, Bocanegra played for 5 clubs in Europe before returning to MLS to first finish his playing career and then move in to a front office role. Please turn your attention to the video screens to learn more about Carlos Bocanegra.
The center back is the heart and soul of any team's defense, and no American defender is better proof of this than Carlos Bocanegra. Born in California, Bocanegra played college soccer at Pac-12 powerhouse UCLA. In 2000, he was the 4th overall pick in the MLS Super Draft and quickly established himself as one of the best defenders in the league. In his first season with Chicago Fire, the club won the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, and Bocanegra helped lead the team to the MLS Cup final. His fearless defending and on-field leadership earned him the league's Rookie of the Year award. Over the next 3 seasons, Bocanegra would become the first player ever to win the MLS Defender of the Year award twice, landing those honors in 2002 and 2003. And the big clubs of Europe noticed. In 2004, Bocanegra signed with Fulham of the English Premier League and quickly became a fixture in the lineup at Craven Cottage. Over 4 years, he made 133 appearances for the Cottagers and was a fan favorite among Fulham supporters. His professional career would also include stops with some of France, Scotland, and Spain's biggest clubs. In 2013, Bocanegra returned to MLS with Chivas USA, where he would retire from professional soccer in 2014. As impressive as his professional career was, Bocanegra's impact on the U.S. men's national team was just as strong. He captained the squad for 6 seasons, was on the field for the 2003 Gold Cup and the 2006 FIFA World Cup, and wore the captain's armband at the 2010 World Cup. On June 24, 2009, Bocanegra led the U.S. national team to a legendary 2-0 semifinal victory over Spain at the FIFA Confederations Cup in South Africa. When his international career was finished, Bocanegra had earned 110 senior caps and netted 14 goals. After hanging up his cleats, he joined Atlanta United of MLS as technical director, helping lead the team to one of the most incredible pro-level debuts in soccer history. And in 2018, he signed on as co-chair of the Technical Development Committee at the U.S. Soccer Federation. Carlos Bocanegra is quite simply one of the best American-born defenders to ever step on the pitch. And in 2020, he earned his call to the National Soccer Hall of Fame.
Carlos has a very special presenter. I'd like to welcome to the stage Carlos's father, Manuel Bocanegra, to present Carlos into the National Soccer Hall of Fame.
Excuse me. Good afternoon. I have the pleasure of introducing Carlos, my son, the 2000 inductee. Carlos began his playing career while visiting with his brother on the sidelines, kicking the ball around, always wanting to be just like him. Carlos was always dribbling the ball, emulating what Diego did, and he began his organized soccer at the age of 5 with his mom as the coach. And after all these years and all these teams, she always lets me know that hers was the only undefeated team. It wasn't easy in the beginning for Carlos. At 5 months, he had spinal meningitis, which necessitated 3 spinal taps. The doctor at one point told us, don't know which medicine is going to work for him, A or B. I said, we'll rely on your knowledge. If he were your son, what would you administer? And he chose wisely, and we didn't lose him. Carlos has a drive within him, this need, this determination. He's always wanting to achieve and do everything hard until he succeeds, unless it's yard work. And then he gets lost here and there, and you know. In high school, he lettered in football, soccer, track and field. Here, he earned numerous awards, including Male Athlete of the Year. He set school records for most receptions and punt return yardage, which triggered recruitment by several D1 schools for American football. Carlos decided that soccer at UCLA was the best avenue for him to advance to the next level. In his 3 years at UCLA, he helped the Bruins win the 1997 National Championship and the 1999 College Cup. His career included all conference honors each year, Best 11, All-American, and Player of the Year nomination. In 2013, he was inducted into the UCLA Hall of Fame. In 2000, the MLS draft, he was selected number 4 overall by the Chicago Fire. He returned home after the draft, and we were shooting some hoops there in the back and did a little trash talking. And I said, you better carry the water and the Gatorade out smartly because you may never see the field right away. And he said, I'm going to be out there. You just watch. And then he dropped the bomb. He said, I'll bet you, Dad. I'll bet you I win Rookie of the Year, and if I win it, I get to shave your beard off. Now, mind you, my sons had never seen me without a beard. For 25 years, I had not shaved, just trimmed it. Well, that little turkey won it. And he came home, he and Diego, and their friend sat me down in the kitchen on a stool and proceeded to cut and slash and deform my nicely trimmed beard. In the MLS, Carlos became the first player to win back-to-back Defender of the Year awards. He subsequently was recruited into the English Premier League and followed by years in France League One and Scotland's Premier League. He was overseas for 10 years. He made his debut with the U.S. national team on December 9th. We don't know exactly how he felt, but as parents, we were elated, and those butterflies just kept on churning. He became a stalwart on the team in 2003 and solidified his position during the Gold Cup, leading all defenders with 13 appearances that year. He captained the national team for the first time in 2007 against China in San Jose, California. He continued to thrive and became one of the few players in the U.S. history to simultaneously captain both his club side and the national team. When he concluded his duty with the national team, he left the following: 110 caps, which is tied for 10th all-time in U.S. history, 14 international goals, most all-time for an American defender. Some of the other stuff they've covered, so I will skip it. We have enjoyed being a part of Carlos's soccer career and life. We enjoyed not only watching him play soccer, but watching him become a leader, a husband, and a father. Carlos, will you join us?
Thanks, Dad, for those nice words. I'll shorten my speech because yours went a little bit over your allotted 5 minutes. But I want to say thanks to U.S. Soccer, the National Soccer Hall of Fame. Am I cut off already with that? I can talk over it. It's all right. Let's get going. Nobody wants to wait. U.S. Soccer, the National Soccer Hall of Fame, also the Hunt family. They're a family that's been around the game and really started it and helped pioneer this sport for us. It's been something that, you know, they've shown with Dallas. They've shown as owners of the multiple clubs early on in the league and really helped us get to where we are today. And you see it with their fantastic academy that's done so well and sent so many players overseas and playing at a high level. So thank you as well to the Hunt family. Congratulations to all the other inductees, all the former and now Hall of Famers. It's fantastic to be here with you guys. We wouldn't be here without everyone's support and how you guys paved the way. So it's great to share the stage with you guys. For me, really, I just want to say thanks and really give gratitude for everything that's happened in my career. And I'll start off with my parents, and thanks again, Dad, for the introduction. But Manuel Kelly, my parents, just the dedication and the sacrifice that they had to make. I remember, you know, getting up early, 5 a.m., having to drive down to San Diego, you know, getting a Carl's Jr. sandwich as we got to the fields. But, you know, just that sacrifice, that dedication. We went to Arizona for the Thanksgiving tournaments. We were here in Dallas for spring break. I mean, your guys' life became soccer. It revolved around Diego and mine's sport. So that is something that, you know, we could never achieve if it wasn't for you guys. And so I really appreciate that. I never knew if you guys ever thought that I would make it to college and keep going, or if that was ever in your mind, but I don't think it mattered. It was just you guys allowed me to have this opportunity and gave me everything. So I want to say thank you guys for that. I'll tell you a little story. When I got to UCLA, it's a little bit cheesy, but I hung a sign. I wrote on a sign I hung above my bed, "Work hard every day and your dreams will come true." And that was something that my parents instilled in me from the beginning. And that was, you know, make sure you get your schoolwork done before you go out and play. You know, my dad brought up the yard work thing and stole my thunder a little bit with that, but I didn't necessarily want to do the yard work all the time, so I tried to get out of it every single way I could. But, you know, I have a baseball game this afternoon, Dad, come on, let me rest. Nope, yard work. Dad, I have a soccer game this afternoon. No, get out here. You're not going to your game unless you get this done. And so while I still was able to get in and out of it a little bit, and my brother helped pick up the slack for me, it was clear that, look, you're going to earn everything, you're going to work hard for everything, and these values for me I took as I got older into my career. And now I have my own family, and the amount of sacrifice that they have to make. Lita, Talon, Cody, Levin is asleep now. He's not too excited about this, is he? But these have had to sacrifice, and we've given our life to the sport. We travel, we're gone all the time. We love this game. This game's given me everything, and the amount of sacrifice that my family has to make with us being gone and allowing us to do what we do, live our dream, whether it was from being a player and now an executive. It's hard. It's hard on these families, and nobody sees. Everybody in this room understands what that means, but it's so hard on our families and the people that care about us behind the scenes, the sacrifice they make. So thank you guys for allowing me to do this and stand up here today. I also wanted to just talk a little bit briefly about all the coaches that have helped me along my pathway. Mike Collins, my high school coach, Bill Schwartz, Southern California club coach with Arsenal. Great team, love that group. Ziggy Schmidt, unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but he was fantastic, and it was him at UCLA and with the under-20 national team that made me understand, again, what it takes to be a pro. And so all the values that my parents and my family really instilled in me, that hard work, that dedication, that sacrifice, you know, what is it going to do to get to that next level? How are you going to be a professional? And Ziggy was excellent with that. Bruce Arena coming into the national team, you know, how to form a team, just partnerships around the field. You learn from all these guys. Bob Bradley with the Fire, he was my first coach, excellent coach. Had him with the national team as well. He saw some of the clips from 2010, and he was excellent. And it was funny with him and Stevie and Stewie are here so they can talk about it. But, you know, Bob was great because he's always pushing you. Can you do more? Can you do more? And you're going, man, I'm like pretty good today. That was all right, you know. It's okay. But he'd follow you around with this damn DVD player, and he's like following you, and he's like, look, step here, a step here, a step here. And it's just crazy because he always was trying to push you to that next level, and you're thinking, okay, but it pays off in the end. And so great coaches like that, they just put values in you, and they make you get better as people on the field, better as people off the field. So, you know, I can't go without saying thank you to some of the important ones. But I spoke about my family, my friends, and my brother. I will include in that. I did watch my brother growing up, tried to emulate him, CIF MVP. He always looked after me. We competed in the front yard, although he's 4 years older, so it wasn't much of a competition, but it was fun. He let me play, and I got to battle against him, so I really appreciate that. Everything you've done for me after the games, be able to call him and what'd you think about this play? And so anyways, thank you so much for that. It means a lot to me and for you to be here today. My friends back home from California, these guys were with me through everything. You get lonely overseas, you feel alone. These guys would fly over for the weekend, take time away from their family, take time away from their jobs, you know, do the red eye back, get to work or school, whatever they're doing that Monday morning. So that was fantastic. My friends back home, thank you guys for everything. I really appreciate it. And I wanted to end with my daughter wrote a little poem. And it kind of, one second. Yeah. Okay. Stand up. So it was about family, and for me this was about giving back, but my daughter wrote a little poem to me before this, so I thought it'd be great if she shared it. It says, congratulations on the Hall of Fame, Daddy, class of 2020. Daddy, I love you. Okay, you read that, please.
I love my daddy oh so much, he's careful by every touch. I love watching the soccer games, so congrats on the Hall of Fame. I'm so proud of you, so I'll yell it out loud to you, 'cause I love my daddy, he's the meat to my burger patty, and I love you, Daddy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Come on, guys, let's go ahead.
Congratulations, Carlos. We all love the poem. And by the way, I have a special announcement about a new career path for Carlos. After his ability to start his speech with the music going, to be able to handle that distraction, we're recruiting him to work in television starting tomorrow. The fact that he was able to do that, you know, if that happened, Andres and Nico can attest to this. If all of a sudden that happened, I mean, we're on the talkback. Why is there music in my ear right now? And Carlos went right through that. That was fantastic. As we say, we apologize for the technical difficulties, but wonderful speech, and thank you so very much, Carlos. And thanks to all of you attending today. We still have a very action-packed afternoon ahead of us. 3 inductees to recognize, but at this time, we'd like to take a 10-minute intermission, and we'll be back to continue today's induction ceremonies as we honor the class of 2021.
Ladies and gentlemen, the induction ceremony will continue in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, hello. It's that time. Please take your seats. And we are going to continue today's program. Hope you guys enjoyed the break. Welcome back, everyone. And in the interest of time, let's jump right into our next inductee. The National Soccer Hall of Fame is a place for all contributors to the game. As we've seen today, we need voices to document the great moments of the game. We need players to provide those great moments. And we need visionaries who build the game and leave it in a better place than when they started. Our next inductee, Kevin Payne, was truly one of those visionaries. As a dynamic administrator, Kevin oversaw 3 decades of explosive growth in the sport at the national, professional, and amateur levels. Kevin Payne's work ethic, vision, and leadership were pivotal to the success of the 1994 World Cup here in the U.S. and 2 different dynastic runs by DC United. In between those 2 stretches with DC United, when Anschutz Entertainment Group took control of 6 clubs in 2001, Payne became AEG's vice president and managing director of soccer, overseeing those 6 franchises through some lean years. Payne returned to DC United in 2004, where he would remain until 2012, when he left to become president of Toronto FC for 1 year. From 2015 until his retirement in 2021, Payne led U.S. club soccer as CEO and executive director. He spent decades of combined service on the MLS Board of Governors, MLS Competition Committee, U.S. Soccer Board, and U.S. Soccer Foundation Board. Payne won U.S. Soccer's Werner Fricker Builder Award in 2011. Please direct your attention to the screens for a video about Kevin Payne.
The history of soccer in America is just as much a story of vision as talent. Without the vision of people like Kevin Payne, soccer in America simply would not be what it is today. Payne played youth soccer and developed a love of the game early on, but a professional career was never in the cards. Instead, he would fuse his passion for the game with his marketing skills and creativity. In 1989, he joined the U.S. Soccer Federation, leading their marketing efforts. 2 years later, he would become president of Soccer USA Partners, the group that oversaw all of the marketing, broadcast, and event promotion work behind U.S. soccer. In the lead up to the 1994 FIFA World Cup, Payne was a key figure in building momentum to what was, and still remains, one of the most successful global tournaments ever held. On the heels of that successful event, the idea for Major League Soccer was born. Payne was instrumental in bringing together the investors behind DC United, one of the original MLS franchises, and in the foundation of the league itself. As president and general manager, Payne helped build DC United into the league's first dynasty. The club won 3 of the first 4 MLS Cups, along with the US Open Cup, the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and the Inter-American Cup. After a brief move to work with fellow Hall of Fame builder Philip Anschutz, overseeing multiple MLS teams, Payne returned to DC United, and again, they would dominate, winning back-to-back Supporters' Shield trophies and making consecutive US Open Cup final appearances in 2008 and 2009. In 2015, Payne was inducted into the DC United Hall of Tradition. Since 2015, Payne has been the driving force behind U.S. Club Soccer, an organization dedicated to growing the youth game in America. Because of the dedication of people like Kevin Payne, the beautiful game continues to find new fans and future stars across the country. In 2021, Kevin Payne was inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame.
Here to present Kevin for induction, a great builder and administrator himself, and a member of the 2019 class of the National Soccer Hall of Fame. Please welcome Sunil Gulati.
I'm sitting at a table with Kevin and his family, including his adult daughters. And right after you brought your daughter up to do the poem, I mentioned to them that it's tradition that you come up and do a poem. The look on their faces was quite worth the trouble. When I was thinking about what I would say here today, I was first thinking about who the audience is. Who are you making this induction for? Is it everyone in the audience, or is it the person that's being inducted? Or is it even a little bit yourself? And I think it's all three. And I think you'll see parts of that, and the last part is only if you've got a relationship with the person that's maybe calls for some of that. That video goes through many years of what Kevin has meant to the sport in the United States and what he's done. I want to focus on 2 really important parts of that. One that he's well known for, which is the years with DC United and what they built, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's really the start of Major League Soccer that I want to touch on. I think it's safe to say that the league would not be here today, certainly not in its form, if Kevin hadn't been at the table in some critical meetings in 1995 and 1996. And those were the years that the Anschutz family, the Hunt family, the Kraft family, and others put up a lot of money to make the league work. And Kevin wasn't doing that, but he was representing what turned out to be DC United. And at one point, the league wasn't going to make it. We didn't have enough money to start the league, full stop. We had a target for financing, and we didn't have enough. Kevin came up with the idea and approached one of the people who was already putting up $5 million and said, why don't you two, you and another owner, doesn't matter who they were, buy an option for another $5 million. And he agreed and said, in this case it was Stuart Subotnick, said, and Phil will do it as well, without talking to Mr. Anschutz, which is an interesting side note that we could talk about at another point. That got the league closed for financing. We wouldn't have had a league without that. And then the other part, the big part, in many, many ways, is where the league is today and the authentic nature of the league. It's FC, and it's United, and it's traditional colors, all of those things. Kevin argued very, very hard for that early days when we were talking about some crazy uniform colors and had some names and had some. He wanted the game to be authentic. His daughter told the story that sometime earlier she had suggested, Dad, let's call it the DC Strikers. And he said at that point, no, we need to be authentic. And so Kevin fought very hard at a point where in a meeting that Clark will certainly remember and Mark Abbott will remember, we were talking about larger goals for the league. Larger goals. And there was a passionate plea by one of the investor operators for larger goals. Kevin was completely frustrated with the discussion and finally said, listen, how big do you want them to be? The response was, well, how big are they now? That kind of summarized for Kevin that we needed that authenticity. And then later on, there was a discussion by another one of the investor operators that talking about how do we make the game more exciting. It was all good nature. It was all the right intent. And the notion was, well, in hockey, they've got the puck that lights up. And we're trying to make the in-stadium experience, at which point Kevin pointed out, you understand the puck doesn't actually light up on the ice, right? That got through. And then turned to DC United and the team that was built there and the club, the culture, and the organization that was built there. On field, maybe still the best team in the history of the league. Started off 0-4, and really Kevin's partner in that, Bruce Arena, who would have loved to have been here. Bruce is at a wedding today and apologized. Well, he sort of apologized. Some of you know Bruce. It'd be very tough to get an apology. And I talked to Bruce, and he said, listen, you know, it's great that Kevin's getting into the Hall of Fame, but I can't believe he's getting into the Hall of Fame before I do. I said, Bruce, you're in the Hall of Fame. And he said, no, I'm physically in. He tried to apparently enter the building this year when New England was down for a game and couldn't get into the building. So he resents that, the Hunt family, I'm sorry, but, you know. And then he said, look, Kevin made a phenomenal start to the league. He made the best decision anyone's ever made. I said, you're right, Bruce. You know, got the name right, got the brand. And he goes, no, he hired me. You got it right. For those of you that know Bruce, that was perfectly in line. And then Bruce said, look, the hardest thing we had to do that first year after starting off 0-4, we had to convince Marco Echeverry that there was no league rule that prohibited you using your right foot. And apparently he was able to do that. And then we had to continually, for the whole year, with Bob Bradley, convince Kevin that he was actually influential in any of the player decisions that Bob and I were making when he had nothing to do with them. I'm sure he did. Eddie Pope, Jeff Agus, Bruce Arena, Bob Bradley, Jaime Moreno, and my guess is very, very soon, Marco Echeverry, all Hall of Famers from that team. And now Kevin Payne. To build a team with 7 Hall of Famers from scratch, pretty extraordinary. And when I talked to some of the players on that team, the captain of that team, John Harkes, for many years, gives Kevin a lot of credit for the culture of the team. And obviously with Bruce, of setting the standard on the field and off the field. And things that are considered obvious now but weren't then, having the front office not too far from where the team was, the colors of the team, the whole work ethic of the team, and it showed on the field. And including manipulating some rules. We had a rule that you couldn't have new players in the middle of the season, except if they came from the USL. So Kevin on a Friday night had a guy named Steve Rommel play 30 seconds in a USL game and then play for DC United on Sunday. Turned out to score a bunch of goals that first year. And then I talked to someone from the Screaming Eagles, the fan group. And as people in the room know, fan groups are interesting. They're critical and they're vital. They're hugely important. Obviously, the fans are the backbone of the game. Except the relationship with ownership and management is often interesting. And I talked to the folks that started the Screaming Eagles and said, from day one, Kevin got it. It wasn't just about trying to sell us a bunch of tickets. He did something that no one in the league had done. He put at the disposal of the Screaming Eagles the best real estate in the stadium at midfield. Why? Because they would be on TV every game. And for those of you that have been to RFK, you know the stadium actually shakes from when they're there. No one else did that. And he got it immediately and got how important the fans were and the culture of the fans to that. Talked to his family a little bit. And it's some of the same things, and Carlos mentioned it, and Andres mentioned it, and I'm sure that Steve will mention the sacrifices that everyone makes when they're part of the sport. But his family also actually talked a lot about, yes, there were sacrifices, missed birthdays, all of those things, but the extraordinary benefits and privileges of the ride, of going to World Cups, of watching DC United, of having a family. And they were very thankful of that. So the commitment of their father and husband to the team and to the sport, but the ride, they got along with it. And that doesn't happen in many other areas. It doesn't happen in a lot of professions. In this sport, it does. And I think of a few other stories, and they're personal stories with Kevin. Kevin, at one time, was running essentially U.S. Soccer as the Deputy General Secretary, the National Administrator, when he first came on, and we had to present budgets. And I was sort of doing half the budget, which was for the national team program. He had the rest. And he'd done about 300-page budget for his part of it, and I had done a one-pager for my part of it. And mine said, essentially, miscellaneous income, miscellaneous expenses. And his was very detailed, and he got taken to task for one line item in that, and he just couldn't understand how that could happen. Either could I, but I walked out of the room before it got brought up. Or we had a game in Columbus, Ohio, and Bruce Arena had managed to get himself suspended a game or two earlier. And it was one of the few games that I missed to the national team. One was when Carlos, when you scored in Guatemala, and this was the second one. I was in Boston at a trial that I couldn't get out of, and I said to Kevin, look, there's only one thing you got to do, because he was very close with Bruce. Just make sure Bruce doesn't use the phone to talk to anybody on the bench. It's a violation of FIFA rules. So I'm watching the game, and within the first 1 minute of the game, Bruce is on the telephone, on TV, sitting next to Kevin. And I called him and said, what's going on? He goes, you know, Bruce doesn't listen to anybody, not me, not you, no one. Okay, fair enough. Or the game, the first year, they won the championship. Second year, and they would have won 3 in a row if we had VAR. And the folks from Chicago will remember this. Maybe an offside call. But in the year after, we had an international referee as part of an experiment. The Hunts will remember this as well. And in the first game of the year in Chicago, DC was playing at Chicago, which won an MLS Cup. And the referee was not having a good game. A few yellow cards, maybe a red card. And Kevin, the whole league had a rule about talking about referees. Kevin managed to get on the halftime show during the broadcast to complain about the referee. Now, that's an accomplishment. You don't generally talk about the referee until after the game, and laid into the referee pretty well. At the next meeting that we had, we were explaining to the board, who wasn't happy about it as well, that the referee had come from Scotland, was part of an exchange program, and that we really couldn't control it and didn't know anything about it. At which point, Lamar Hunt said, well, I understand that, but this young man, or this referee, had a nickname. His name was RoboCop in Scotland. And Lamar's comment was, well, I understand he had a nickname. Do you think next time we could at least find out the nickname in advance? Which seemed fair. But for me, most importantly, in addition to all of those things that he's done in the game, is the personal part of it with Kevin. And we've talked about this more as we get older, I guess, about having one's back. And at a personal level, I feel like he's always had my back. And that's in wins and in losses. That's in elections won and elections lost. That's in jobs gained and jobs lost. And especially with what we've all gone through in the world for the last 18 months and some of the pictures we see from around the world, it's really important to know that. And from my point of view, Kevin, you've always had mine, and know that I'll always have yours. And with that, I would like to welcome you to the stage to be inducted into the United States Soccer Hall of Fame, my friend.
I want to issue a disclaimer first. I might cough during this speech. If I do, don't worry, it's not COVID. Thanks, Sunil. Thanks to the hall. Diorn, your staff has been fantastic. You've made this a very important place. And you certainly have treated the occasion for those of us who are being honored at that level. Congratulations to my fellow honorees, Andres, Carlos, Steve, and especially my friend Jaime. Andres, I'm sure you noticed that the attention to detail has been exquisite. The wine on the table is Argentine. Very impressive. So the film said that I played youth soccer. I really didn't play much youth soccer because where I grew up, I'm a lot older than most of the, well, certainly everybody else that was being honored. Where I grew up, there was no youth soccer. My first exposure was watching the 1966 World Cup final on delayed tape. And I believe it was ABC Wide World of Sports. But I fell in love with the game very quickly, and it became my passion. In the late 80s, I was living in Vail, Colorado, and I was playing soccer for a club team and looking for ways to make a difference in the sport, make it matter more. I met Werner Fricker, who at the time was the president of the federation. Drove him crazy for about a year. And finally, we had a breakfast meeting, and he said, "Why do you want to work in this sport? Why do you want to work for the federation?" And I said, "Well, I'm not looking for a job. I want it to matter that I was here. I want to make a difference for the sport. I want to leave something behind when I'm gone that outlives me." And he looked at me and said, "Okay, I'm going to give you that chance." It still took a while for me to come on board. And federation politics being what they were, I actually moved my family, left my job, moved my family to Colorado Springs, and then found out that the executive committee of the federation, a week later, had a vote. It was 4-3, with Werner casting the deciding vote in favor of keeping me on. I didn't find that out till a little bit later. Unfortunately, it was an introduction to some of what is less savory about the experience of U.S. soccer. It's around that time that I met Sunil. I didn't know when I met him that for the next 30 plus years, he would be my confidant, my co-conspirator, fellow dreamer, and friend. It's been very gratifying to make the journey together. Most of what I remember as I've looked back on this and thought about my speech is the people involved. In the summer of 1990, Werner Fricker, surprisingly, lost an election and was replaced by Alan Rothenberg. Alan talked about cleaning house. I was thinking about how do I go home and tell my wife that I've lost my job. Alan actually came to Colorado Springs, spent a day together, talked about pretty much everything except me. And when I took him back to the airport, he said, "I really came here to get a sense of what you're all about. I'd like you to stay and be part of our team." I was thrilled, to say the least. I also, at that time, that's when I met Hank. Hank Steinbrecher, who's been a lifelong friend and colleague ever since. I spoke to him this morning, as a matter of fact. He called me. Typical Hank. You all know that he's not in the best of health, but his spirit is still really high. So I encourage you to call him and talk to him. He enjoys that. A couple years later, meantime, we had met a company called Soccer USA Partners that owned all the marketing rights for U.S. soccer. And the guy who ran it was a fellow named Michael Forte. Michael Forte is one of the unsung heroes of our sport. Never played it. Don't even really know if he cared that much about it. but he created the modern commercial marketplace for soccer. And he put the United States Soccer Federation on a sound financial footing. Mike asked me to come to New York and help him run the company, and I jumped at the chance. We were a band of brothers and sisters traveling around the country. We put on more than 80 soccer matches in 3.5 years. When I left the Federation, it had annual sponsorship revenue of $300,000. By the end of 1994, we had annual sponsorship revenue in excess of $20 million. Much of that thanks to Mike. In early 1994, Edward Leask, one of the partners in that company, Soccer USA Partners, asked me if I would try to put together a group to be founding members of the new league that we were talking about, Major League Soccer. And I said, yeah, I would love to do that, and I think we can make it work because of what we've learned over the last 3.5 years putting on games. So I went to an initial organizing committee meeting a little bit later that summer after the World Cup, where I met Lamar and Clark for the first time. Dan was, I think, still in high school. Also at that meeting was Stuart Subotnick of Metro Media that Sunil mentioned. And that was about it. It was a very difficult time. It took us a long time to find enough people to put money up to make this league launch. A critical moment was in one of the meetings. We got a phone call. Phil Anschutz was calling from his plane and said, I'm in. That was a big moment, but we still weren't there. We ultimately got there and launched the league. And we literally were building an airplane in flight. None of us knew what we were doing, but we had a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of commitment. And it's difficult to overstate the influence of Lamar. He had done this before, successfully, a little thing called the American Football League. And his wise counsel was invaluable. I had the pleasure then to begin DC United. And it's interesting, you know, Sunil mentioned about my fight for authenticity. I was referred to in a lot of those early meetings. I knew it. I don't think they knew I knew it, but a lot of the people behind the scenes in the league office in particular called me kind of derisively the soccer guy. I was the soccer guy that was always complaining, why don't we do it like the game deserves? For me, that was an incredible badge of honor, and I wore it very proudly. I hired Bruce. Bruce then said, I also want to bring Bob Bradley on board. The three of us spent countless hours together envisioning a team and developing a culture. It was heady times, one of the most enjoyable times of my professional life. The league launched. Everybody thought we had the best team on paper. We proceeded to go 0-4, 1-6, and 2-9. And we had people marching around the stadium in RFK saying, with banners saying, send Bruce Arena back to Virginia College. And there were times where I wished I had done that. But we persevered. We began to play better. Marco really came into his own. And then later that summer, we finally got a player that we'd been trying to get from the beginning. He wasn't available to us, but we finally got him, and I deeply appreciated Sunil's help in pursuing this. But we got a young Bolivian striker named Jaime Moreno. And our team and the league would never be the same. That team was anchored by players like John Harkes, Jeff Agus, Richie Williams, who belongs in the Hall of Fame. Richie Williams has won 14 major national championships from college through the pros. I think more than any other American player. He's an unsung hero of those early teams. We had a young college defender named Eddie Pope, Raul Diaz-Arce, and we were rolling. The first year, we had an incredibly memorable championship game in Foxborough Stadium in the middle of a nor'easter. Worst weather conditions I've ever seen a game played in anywhere. We got 8.5 inches of rain that day. We were losing 2-0 late in the game to the LA Galaxy. Kobe was on the field in that game. I went down to the sideline with a friend and colleague, and he put his arm around my shoulders and said, with about 11 minutes to go, he said, "It's just not our day." And I said, if we get one goal, we're going to win this game. I knew my players, and I knew if we got one goal, they were going to find a way to win, and they did. So history was made. We had the chance after that to go to the White House. Actually, it was after the '97 championship, but you saw the picture. Most of my time there was spent trying to convince Bruce that he really didn't need to tell President Clinton how to run the company, or the country, that he kind of knew what he was doing. But Bruce said, you're doing it wrong. So we had Bob and Bruce, and then later Dave Sarakin. The league, though, was struggling behind the scenes. A lot of people didn't understand what was going on, but it was searching for leadership. In 1999, I got a phone call. There was a fellow named Don Garber who was going to come down to a game. And I was told, he's going to be the next commissioner, but it's not being advertised yet, so can you meet with him? We were playing a Sunday afternoon game against the MetroStars. Don and I were sitting in the stands. There were over 20,000, going crazy, singing, chanting, banners. Don looked at me and said, "So what's the problem?" And I said, "Well, it doesn't look like this everywhere." It's difficult to imagine the league and where it would be today without Don's leadership and his vision and his steadfast hand at the tiller. And alongside him, Mark Abbott, who wrote the original business plan for the league and has been the institutional memory of the league since before we ever kicked a ball. So I am incredibly grateful to them. In 2000, 2001, it got even harder. There was a big difference of opinion among owners how to run the league. And we very, very nearly went out of business. Phil Anschutz stepped up. Lamar and Clark stepped up. Danny, around that time, began to get involved. And then Robert and Jonathan Kraft stepped up. And we were able to keep the league alive. I ended up, as somebody mentioned earlier, overseeing the fortunes of 6 teams, which was pretty daunting. The Hunt family took over 3 teams, and the Kraft family was running New England. But we used a lot of strategy, a lot of discipline. We made the league palatable again, and we were able to begin selling teams off. And from there, the league has gone, it's not been unbroken, but we basically have moved forward every day since those those early days in 2001. Will Chang became the principal owner of DC United. I appreciate not just the fortune, but the passion that he put into DC United. He stuck with it when a lot of other people would have walked away. I went up to Toronto briefly, enjoyed Tom Anselmi and MLSE and the folks at Toronto FC. Didn't work out for some reasons. I came back and had dinner with my friend Ken Chartier, who said, would you like to run U.S. club soccer for me? He had been involved in beginning the organization about 15 years earlier. And I said, well, actually, I'd rather poke myself in the eye with a pencil than get involved in youth soccer. He said, no, give it a chance. I think we can make a difference. I did, and we have tried. Don't know if we have, but we've tried. All this time, I was also involved with the U.S. Soccer Foundation, a great organization which has, and our mission has changed over the years, but now it's essentially to bring the game to communities where it doesn't now exist. We have a phenomenal board. I'm proud that I was able to bring a number of board members to that group, none more important than Ed Foster Simeon, who began as a board member and today is the president and is providing extraordinary leadership. Kobe's a member of the board. Cindy's a member of the board. It's a great organization. I've had many, many great colleagues and friends over the years at U.S. Soccer: Richard Groff, Dan Flynn, Brian Remedi, Jay Berhalter, way back at the beginning, Jan Osborne. Incredible people. At Soccer USA Partners, Betty D'Angelo, Jen Hammer, Bess Brodsky, John Guppy, Fiona Green. And then at DC United and Soccer USA Partners, a young man named Steven Zach, who did all the jobs that I didn't want to do, and a lot of jobs that I didn't even know about. Without Steven, we never could have succeeded. Dave Casper, the longtime general manager and great friend. We've had great players over the years, just a few. Tony Santa, Carlos Llamosa, Ben Olsen, Ryan Nelson, Ernie Stewart, Christian Gomez. Our coaches, Thomas Rongan, Ray Hudson, Peter Novak, Tommy Sohn, Kurt Analfo, Ben Olsen. An extraordinary group of people to work with. At U.S. Club Soccer, I want to also mention a young man named Greg Hutton, who has a very, very bright future in our game. Young guy, played college soccer, very bright, very passionate, very committed. And Ken's wife, Joan, who has been involved in the same journey with U.S. Club Soccer since the beginning. Over the years with my friend Sunil, we shared countless laughs and tears, and really a shared determination and a passion that we weren't going to let this game fail. We were going to do everything possible to make it get to the level that it deserved. Bruce, maybe the most misunderstood guy in American soccer, sarcastic, passionate, curious, smart, competitive, loyal, caring, generous. The people that have played for him that are here, Carlos and Steve, Kobe, and particularly Marco and Jaime, know what I'm talking about. A special guy and a special friend. I'm very happy that Andreas has his mom and dad here. Carlos's dad was able to speak for him. My parents are both gone. I wish they were here. I think they would have enjoyed this. I do have a lot of family here. I'd like to mention them if you don't mind. My nephew, Griff, and his wife, Jessica. My sister, Sharon, couldn't be here today. The older of my two sisters, Eileen, we lost to ovarian cancer a few years ago. I'm still wearing a wristband in her honor. It says, courage, strength, hope, faith. That's how she lived her life and how I've tried to live mine. Her daughter, Christine, is here, and her family, Andy, Mackenzie, Garrett, and Emery at home watching, I hope. My brother Tom, my younger brother Tom, an accomplished soccer executive in his own right, is here with his son Dylan. My big brother Dennis, a man of patience, kindness, forbearance, all of which he needed in bountiful supply to deal with me growing up. My kids are here, my two daughters, Ashley, the older, Rebecca, the younger. Ashley's here with her husband, Alberto, who also comes from a soccer mad family from Ecuador. My two grandsons, Lucas and Ian Paul, both very good players. Lucas is a right-sided midfielder. Ian Paul is a left-footed attacking player, so he and Marco are going to spend a little time together. My other daughter, Rebecca, is here with her husband, Alex, and their baby, Theodore Joseph, Theo. He's only 8 months old. Alex is actually a hockey guy, so we're already arguing about that. Theo's not walking yet, so there's a little time still to convince him that he wants to stay on dry land. I couldn't be prouder to have them here to see this. And finally, my wife, Pam. She made my journey, with all of its twists and turns, her own. And she enriched it beyond any ability of mine. Kind, generous, compassionate, fierce, courageous, loving. I literally don't know where I would be without her. Thank you for being with me. More than 30 years ago, I told Werner Fricker I wasn't looking for a job. I wanted to make a difference in our sport. I wanted to accomplish something. I wanted to leave something behind which would live on after I was gone. I've tried my best. I hope I've succeeded. Thank you all very much.
Congratulations, Kevin. Thank you for the stories about the old days and for your heartfelt comments about your family. Our next inductee holds the distinction of being the first player elected to the National Soccer Hall of Fame who is solely eligible through his contributions in MLS. Jaime Moreno is a 4-time Major League Soccer champion, 2-time Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup champion, and 5-time MLS Best XI selection. Moreno's name has been a fixture in the MLS record book since leading the league with 16 goals in 1997. In 2004, he led MLS with 14 assists. In 2006, he became the first MLS player to score 100 goals. In 2009, he established the now two-member 100-100 club by recording his 100th assist. His 133 career goals were a record at the time of his retirement and remain the fourth best in MLS history. His MLS statistics include 102 assists, 44 penalty kick goals, 12 playoff goals, and 5 playoff game-winning goals. Moreno is one of 3 MLS players to record 10 goals and 10 assists 4 times, and he is one of 9 players with multiple career MLS Cup goals. An MLS original from 1996, he played in 340 regular season games and 32 more in the playoffs. He was a key component of the DC United dynasty that won 3 of the first 4 MLS Cups, earning MVP honors in the 1997 championship game. And internationally, he represented Bolivia 75 times, including 2 appearances at the 1994 World Cup. We bring you a video now about Jaime Moreno.
When Major League Soccer was born in 1994, it was the beginning of a new era for the men's game. Many of the top Americans returned from abroad to play at home, but many others would follow their soccer dreams to America and the possibility of MLS. For Jaime Moreno, the league would become his playground, and his goal scoring and playmaking would become legendary.
Moreno trying to get there first is put by Clark. Now Hark's battling. Moreno's on to it. Into the net. Into the net. A goal! DC United. Jaime Moreno.
Moreno was born in Bolivia, and his talent was on display early, where he made his debut for his country's senior-level national team at the age of 17. He also quickly impressed at Bolivian club Blooming and at Colombian side Independiente Santa Fe. European clubs took notice, and in 1994, he signed with English side Middlesbrough. After a 2-year stint in England, Moreno turned his attention to new opportunities. When he landed at DC United on loan, it was the beginning of one of the most dominant careers in league history. He joined the Black and Red halfway through the 1996 season, and he helped lead them to the MLS Cup title. The next year, he led the league in goals with 16, was named to the league's Best 11, and once again led DC United to the Cup title. Playing alongside fellow Bolivian Marco Echeverri, his 1998 season was pure dominance. Moreno scored 16 goals and added 11 assists as United won both the CONCACAF Champions Cup and the Copa Interamericana. Moreno spent the 2003 season with the New York, New Jersey MetroStars. But in 2004, he again pulled on the black and red for DC United. That season, he was named to the league's Best 11 again, was a finalist for the MVP trophy, and helped lead the club to yet another MLS Cup. Over the next 2 seasons, Moreno and DC United would earn 2 supporter shields and a US Open Cup trophy. When Jaime Moreno retired after the 2010 season, he left as one of the league's best ever. In 340 league and cup appearances, he netted 133 goals and was selected as one of Major League Soccer's all-time best 11. In 2021, Jaime Moreno was elected to the National Soccer Hall of Fame.
I have 2 introductions for Jaime's presenter, if you'll bear with me. Please welcome a player named one of the greatest 25 in MLS history, a teammate with DC United and Bolivia, Marco Echeverri, to present Jaime Moreno for induction. Damas y caballeros, por favor, dar una bienvenida al escenario un gran jugador y compañero de Jaime con DC United y la selección boliviana, para presentar a Jaime en español en el Salón de la Fama, Marco Echeverri.
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Qué honor recibir la invitación de Jaime, ser parte para poder reconocer todo lo que ha dado por el fútbol aquí en Estados Unidos. Me considero, con el respeto, el hermano mayor de Jaime. Creo que empezamos juntos cuando él llegó a la selección boliviana en el año 91, con 17 años, y ya marcaba lo que iba a ser su carrera futbolística, una estrella. Digo, me considero el hermano mayor porque cuando llegamos a la MLS también llegó después de 2 meses y lo recibimos, mostró un fútbol increíble, hasta que me tocó retirarme a mí y quedó él como capitán, como la estrella y todo lo que ha entregado para el fútbol aquí en Estados Unidos y la MLS. Creo que todos estamos agradecidos por tanto talento, estamos agradecidos por la calidad de persona que es. Tenés a toda tu gente, a todos tus seres queridos que desde niños vibran con vos. Y yo como tu hermano mayor también me considero un hincha tuyo, porque sos guerrero, porque sos luchador, porque sos una calidad de persona impresionante. Gracias, Jaime, por tanto talento, por tanta calidad de persona que sos. A toda tu familia que siempre te apoyaron, a todas las personas, Sunil, Kevin, Don, que han sido importantes para que nosotros podamos venir acá y demostrar nuestro fútbol con Jaime. En este momento quiero aplaudir esa carrera de récord, de asistencia, de goles. No es fácil lo que hiciste, Jaime. Tienes que sentirte orgulloso como se siente toda tu familia. Y yo como tu hermano mayor. Muchas gracias a todos. Felicidades a los que han sido premiados. Muchas gracias.
Ladies and gentlemen, Marco Echeverri. First of all, I want to thank God for giving me the opportunity and the skill and the talent to play the love that I game, the game that I love. As you can tell, my paper is not as big as Kevin. This is what my kids wrote, so I want to start thanks the country for giving me the opportunity to be here, especially Kevin, Sunil, Bruce Arena for believing on me. You know, me and Marco, we feel that we were adopted for this country, and all the things that they gave us, we never expected. So that's why we're so thankful. I want to thank National Soccer Hall of Fame for the introduction. You know, for me, always it's never been to get awards for myself. It was all about winning championships. And I think in the beginning, that's what we all show. And it was very easily because we were a family. And from the beginning, when I came to this country, I'm going to tell you a story that nobody knows. Sorry, Kevin, but I know everybody's told a story. The first time I came, you know, I landed into Dallas Airport, and they picked me up and they took me straight to the game. We were playing Kansas City, I think. They even dressed me up, but I was 25 pounds over, I think. I wasn't going to play, but they dressed me up. And as soon as they started the game, I thought, this is terrible. You know? What did I do? But then, you know, once I started practicing, I realized how hard it was, how competitive the guys were, how hungry we were. And that's just all about soccer, being hungry, want to win things, play as a team. And that's why DC United was successful in the beginning, because we were hungry. And, you know, it wasn't just about being on the field, but Kevin, Bruce, and all the staff, they were always worried about the family, how they were doing, if somebody was sick. So that's what it makes a difference. That's why DC United was so successful in the beginning. I also want to tell you a story about the first barbecue that we had at Kevin's house. And me and Marco, we were like, well, we hope he's going to buy half a cow, you know, because the whole team is showing. So we go to the house, and it's hot dogs and burgers. And we were like, what's this? I said, well, listen, next weekend, we're going to show him how we do it. So we go to Marco's house. We buy half a cow. Everybody's coming, you know, families and everybody. And they're all like, what's this? I said, well, this is a real barbecue. Anywhere. And there's so many people I want to thank. First, my parents. Unfortunately, they're not here for different reasons. They're in Bolivia. But those are the big reasons why I'm here. I'm sorry. I was a kid that I was dreaming. I was the assist. Well, he was the assist, actually. Yeah, I had to score. They were the people that believe in me and support me. And they always wanted me to be happy. And that's why, for me, my parents have been the most important persons in my life. And that's what I've been trying to do to my own kids. I'm so blessed that I have my kids here with me. And just thank you very much to this country, to these people, for what they give us. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Congratulations, Jaime. Gracias, Marco. Se fue un buen discurso. Like Carlos Bocanegra, whom you heard from earlier, our next inductee was named to the U.S. Men's National Team All-Time Best 11 in 2013 during the U.S. Soccer Federation's centennial year. A first-choice right back for 3 U.S. Men's National Team head coaches, Steve Cherundolo was a consistent, high-level performer for club and country during his career. Cherundolo was rostered for 3 consecutive FIFA World Cups and appeared in 26 World Cup qualifiers. He missed the 2002 World Cup due to being injured after being named to the roster as an injury replacement himself, but was named to the World Cup side 4 years later, and to the 2010 FIFA World Cup was on the field when Landon Donovan scored against Algeria, arguably the most dramatic goal in men's national team history. A combination of injuries and club responsibilities limited his career cap total to 87 matches. His offensive contributions are often remembered for his ability to send in crosses that led to 10 career national team assists, although one of his 2 career goals was an improbable 75-yard score against Germany when Oliver Kahn collided with U.S. forward Eddie Johnson. Professionally, Cherundolo signed with Hannover 96 in Germany as a 19-year-old after 2 seasons at the University of Portland. Cherundolo helped the club earn promotion to the Bundesliga, became the captain for the club, and was given the honorary title of Mayor of Hannover based on the respect he earned from fans in his adopted hometown over his lengthy career in Germany. Now let's see a video about Steve Cherundolo.
The best defenders are a combination of skill, toughness, and determination. They may not earn the headlines, but the best earn the respect of both their teammates and true soccer fans. Steve Cherundolo was one of these defenders. He grew up in the soccer hotbed of San Diego, and his youth club won 6 state titles. His college career at the University of Portland was brief, but spectacular. In 1998, he won West Coast Conference Freshman of the Year honors. 1 year later, he would take the field for one of Germany's most storied teams, Hannover 96. Cherundolo spent his entire professional career in Germany with Hannover. He made an astounding 370 appearances, becoming a fixture for the club and a legend among the fans. When he arrived, Hannover were playing in Germany's 2nd division. In the 2000-2001 season, Cherundolo helped the team finish at the top of the table and earn a promotion to Germany's Bundesliga. With him at the core of their defense, Hannover would cement their status at the top tier of German soccer for the rest of his career. Even when other European clubs came calling, Cherundolo wasn't interested. Hannover was his club, and he would come to be known as the Mayor of Hannover. Cherundolo made his U.S. men's national team debut in 1999. At the 2006 FIFA World Cup, he started all 3 games, including the 1-1 draw against the eventual champion Italy. At the 2010 FIFA World Cup in South Africa, Cherundolo was a key part of the U.S. squad that made it to the round of 16. He played all 390 minutes of that tournament for the Red, White, and Blue, including a 1-1 draw with powerhouse England and the memorable win over Algeria.
Cross, and Dempsey's denied again, and Donovan has scored! Oh, can you believe this?
And in 2013, the 100th anniversary of the U.S. Soccer Federation, Cherundolo was named to the U.S. men's national team's all-time best 11. After retiring from competition in 2015, Cherundolo remained with Hannover as an assistant coach, where he later became head coach of the club's academy team. He would go on to coach for VfB Stuttgart and for the Germany national youth team. Cherundolo finally returned to the United States to take over as head coach of USL's Las Vegas Lights FC. And in 2021, Steve Cherundolo was elected to the National Soccer Hall of Fame.
All right, please welcome MLS and U.S. men's national team veteran, Fox Sports lead in-game soccer analyst, Instagram star, and friend. We're going to play some music during his speech. Stuart Holden to present Steve Cherundolo for induction.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. You know, Mark was talking about wonderful broadcasters, and we had Andrés Cantor up here. So Mark and I have walked a little bit together at Fox Sports, so much so, you're a very humble guy, this guy. So I was in the hallway his first time we met at Fox. I'm outside the room. Mark's calling a game. I'm doing the one after. And I went to the bathroom quickly, and I hear Mark just going nuts from inside the studio. I come running out. What happened? And they're like, it's a corner kick. And that speaks to Mark's energy and the type of passion that he has. And first of all, I just want to say congratulations to Kevin, to Jaime, to Carlos, and also to Andres for all your fantastic contributions to the game. But I'm here because of Steve Cherundolo. And when Steve called me, I have to say, I was pretty nervous. He said, Stu, I want you to give my introduction speech in the Hall of Fame. And this is to a guy who speaks for a living. I thought, how do you give justice to the mayor of Hanover, Steve Cherundolo, the kid from Southern California,
played for the San Diego Nomads, went to the Portland University, went over to Germany at 19 years old, had a 15-year career in the Bundesliga, 13-year career with the U.S. men's national team. And how do you do all of that in under 5 minutes? Well, thankfully, I know that now I have more than 5 minutes. Thank you, Kevin. I can confirm before I talked to Neil Beathy on my way in that Steve Cherundolo would be the first mayor to be inducted into the U.S. Soccer National Hall of Fame, so that's quite a thing. So I wrote a speech on Monday, scrapped it. Wrote a speech on Tuesday, scrapped it. Didn't like it, didn't feel right, didn't feel what Steve would want up here on this podium. And last night, I was talking to my daughter, tucking her into bed, and she said, "Dad, where are you going tomorrow?" I said, "I'm going to Dallas." "Well, why are you going to Dallas?" And I said, "Well, your Uncle Steve is getting inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame." "What's that?" "Ah, okay, it makes sense that a 5-year-old wouldn't know what this is, right?" And it's so fascinating sitting up here and listening to Kevin and Jaime and Carlos tell all these stories, that all these people in this room have done so much for the game of soccer, and all of us understand. And it was interesting to try to explain that to a 5-year-old and what actually being in the Hall of Fame means. And I couldn't stop thinking about Steve's daughters here, Liv and Bella. And on the way in the bus, Bella's in the back of the bus saying, "My dad's really famous." And you think about it from their perspective, right? 305 people. Steve is the 305th person to be inducted into the U.S. Soccer National Hall of Fame. Think of all the thousands, millions of kids, the builders, the administrators, the coaches, the referees, everybody that has done so much for soccer in this country. 305 had the honor of wearing the red jacket, of having their name up here, and it could not be more fitting for a guy like Steve. Honestly, I got emotional as I started to tell him and tell my daughter, and I was thinking about Liv and Bella, and how would I explain that to them right now, standing up here? And in the simplest terms, your dad is a really, 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 really good soccer player, as in one of the best to have ever played the game. Now, the numbers and the stats are there. I can read them out to you. I was reading them to my daughter as well, and they sound fantastic. 3 World Cup rosters. The video showed you that. 2002, South Korea. Mark, he got injured, but let's not sugarcoat it. He went for a vacation in South Korea. 2006 and 2010, how instrumental he was as part of those teams. I was on the team, fortunate enough in 2010, Steve, to have played with you in that World Cup. And while the headlines were about Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan and Tim Howard and a guy named Carlos Bocanegra, the conversations internally, and this is a theme throughout Steve's career and his life, from coaches, from teammates, from players, it was about guys like Steve Cherundolo, guys that didn't need the limelight, that went out of their ways to avoid interviews. I was talking to his mother, Ann, before coming here, and just to get some background, and she said, "I wish Steve would do some more interviews." I had to tell him that he was eligible for the Soccer Hall of Fame. I had to tell him that he was going to be inducted. And you know, it speaks to the individual and the person that Steve is. He didn't care about that. This is a guy that wanted to win at all costs, that just loved the practice part of the game, loved being on the field with his teammates and his coaches. And so much so that Ann told me at age 11, when Steve had been doing the rec soccer thing and was getting some recognition, she said he came to her at 11 and said, "Mom, I think I'm ready not to be coached by a dad." Well, Steve, I hate to tell you, but you're a dad and you're also a coach. So you're going to have to change the way that you're framing that going forward. But I think we all know what he meant, right? This was a guy that was ready to take the next step in his career, that was working away, that beat the odds, that was always told he was too small, that he wasn't going to be good enough. 5'6". His daughter's almost taller than him already. So, you know, that speaks about what Steve was able to do with his size and his speed and his ability and his awareness. And Mark, I thought you put it so well about his ability to deliver the right cross at the right time with the right speed. And I could just go on and on about what Steve was able to do as a player. But really, I don't think that's why he wanted me to be up here today, because Steve is more than the player that you saw on the field. And what was a really fascinating experiment for me, and thank you for my social media shout out, but I put a tweet out before this saying, I'm giving this speech for Steve Cherundolo. I'd love to hear your stories. So from fans, from former teammates, from coaches. And there was maybe one single mention. This is not to discredit your play on the field, Steve. We all know you're a great player, but one person talked about a moment on the field. It was all about moments off the field. DeMarcus Beasley talking about walking into a cafe in Hanover and was trying to find somebody that spoke English. And he said that the barista behind the counter said, "We only speak English for Cherundolo." About fans that would come up to him after the game and would be waiting for hours. We all know those fans that sit out there and they want to get a picture and they want to see you, they want to talk to you. Most of the times you're so focused, you're in the game, you're on the bus, it's training, it's games. Steve found a way to make time for all those fans. There were countless memories of people with Steve holding up jerseys, taking pictures with them. Ann had told me about his first national team camp, I think when he was under 20s. He went to Nigeria, and we all love those youth national team guys. Kobe, I know you remember. Actually, it might not be a little bit before your time, sorry. We used to get these bags of gear, right? Nike gear, and it was the coolest thing ever. You'd get a jersey, you'd get cleats, and I would take them home and I would stack them up and used to show all my friends. This is because I was on the youth national team. Well, Steve gave all of his to kids in need in Nigeria. He went out of his way to seek the team administrator to find time to pass on his gear to give it to other people. And that is Steve Cherundolo, the person. The stats, they check the boxes, right? The bio, it's all there. The World Cup, the 400 appearances for Hanover. He captained a team in the German Bundesliga 95 times. For an American, that's an incredible stat. 2015 Gold Cup winner, 86 men's national team camps. The mayor of a German city. The guy has the keys to go anywhere he wants. I think about Steve, the family man, as I'm looking at you there with your daughters, with your wife, with your sisters, with your mom, with everybody that has been here to support you. And one of the coolest things, Sunil, you talked about it a little bit as well, the memories, right, that we create with our families, that they get to travel the world because we've had this incredible honor to represent our country and go to places like Germany and South Africa. And all of his family were sitting there talking about the game against Italy and Germany, the 1-1 tie, and all of their recollections of those moments. And it just gives you goosebumps. You see it all up on the field. But without the family, that's not able to happen. And Steve, I know that's what you're most proud of, and I can tell you that your family are most proud of that for you. This is a guy that never talks about his accomplishments. He never talks about his career. He talks about the friendships. He talks about his teammates. He talks about his family. And that's just the way he is. And in many ways, it makes him who he is. When I was explaining all of this to my daughter, of course I didn't say it in this type of way, I realized that profound simplicity can be so effective. And in many ways, that was Steve Cherundolo, a guy that would give you a 7, an 8, a 9 out of 10 consistently. You never had to worry about Steve. You maybe had to worry about Clint would be a 2 this week, but the next week he's going to be a 10 and score a hat trick. Steve was always there. Carlos were always there. These are the guys that were the foundation of successful teams. And I'm truly honored to have been your teammate. This is a guy that played with integrity, with fight, with passion, with commitment, but was always up for a laugh and a good time. Steve was very generous. I remember my first national team camp. It was in D.C., and I was a rookie in Major League Soccer. I wasn't making a lot of money at the time, and Steve was playing in the German Bundesliga. So he found ways to be generous. So he said, "Stu, I'll offer you my per diem if you quack like a duck and you swim around the Potomac River right now." So I was straight in the river, quacking like a duck. Steve handed me his per diem. I remember another time, we're on the bus heading to training in South Africa, and training camps, World Cups, they get a little repetitive after time. 6 weeks, you're going to practice, you're training, you get the games. It's the 26 guys at all times. So we got a little bored on the bus, so we crumpled up gum wrappers, and we used to throw them at each other like children, and we were children. So one of these gum wrappers, boom, Steve throws it, Bob Bradley, back of the head. Bob didn't flinch. I mean, Bob stayed facing forward, and all he said was, "I know who did that. Holden." And I was like, it wasn't me. So we get off the bus now to go to practice, and I can see Steve squirming over there, but we're all dying in the back of the bus, laughing our heads off until Bob, I realized he was going to get me in trouble. So I walk off the bus. Bob pulls me straight over the side, starts to have a conversation. In comes Steve and says, "Bob, it was me. I'm sorry. I threw a gum wrapper." And Bob's like, "Okay, Steve, no problem." I'm thinking, if that was me, I would have been in trouble. I would have been pulled back. But it's Steve Cherundolo. Everything's fine. But what it does show you in just a small way is that Steve was the guy that Bob knew he could count on, that Bruce knew he could count on, that all of his coaches knew he could count on. And even if it was Steve, which it was, who hit Bob in the back of the head with a gum wrapper, it didn't matter, right? Because Steve would step on that field tomorrow or in training, and he would train harder than anybody, he would work harder than anybody, he would perform better than anybody, and in the game, he would give it absolutely everything. And Steve's dad, I don't know how many people know this, so Steve's dad passed away shortly before Steve turned professional, and I'm getting emotional. I never got to meet his dad. And when I was talking in my conversation with Ann, it really stuck out to me because Steve signed his first professional contract 10 days after his dad passed away. His dad never had the opportunity to see him play professionally, and his mom, Ann, you were there the whole way, and Steve continually talks about that, but it was one thing that you said to me about when Steve represented the national team for the first time, something we all dream of as children, and he put that shirt on. After the game, he sought out his mother and was emotional and was crying, and he said, I wish my dad could see that. Steve, I never had the honor and the pleasure of knowing your dad, but I can stand here and having talked to your family and to your mom, Ann, I just want to convey to you that your family are proud of you, we are proud of you, you've had a fantastic career, and I can guarantee you that your dad, Rich, has lived on through your life and could not be more proud of you being inducted to this Hall of Fame, my friend. So with that, I'd love to welcome up Steve Cherundolo, the mayor of Hanover, to induct him into the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame.
I don't have a paper, I have a book, so we're almost through, everybody. But I wrote a few things that I probably won't share everything. A lot has been said today. Stu, thank you for those kind words. You've managed to do something I am not very good at. I do not like to speak about myself. So I'm going to try not to do that. I wasn't good at scoring goals, so if you will, I will stay in the back line today and just defend. Thank you to the National Soccer Hall of Fame. Thank you to U.S. Soccer, the Hunt family, FC Dallas, everybody organizing this event. It's truly amazing to see. It's also very important for the younger generation, my kids, Carlos's kids, anybody here watching as well, and can come to the Hall of Fame and see it. It should inspire anybody who walks through those doors. It inspired me once again. I feel like I could go out and start a new career. But I will not. There are others to do that. It is something that I've always tried to do and strive to do, is to do my part, to push the bar a little further for the next generation. There were guys before me, some of you here today. Thank you for that. I am a product of all of your work. Most importantly, I am a product of the work at table 3 over there. And to really just sum up all of my emotions right now, I'm just extremely, extremely grateful for everything that I've been given. And the most important thing, I think, in this industry is to have a support group, a family, of friends, or somebody you can speak to when things aren't going well. But more importantly, when things are going well and you're on top of the world, keeping you grounded. I think that's extremely important. So thank you to my family, Mandy, my wife, who I met in Germany. I guess the First Lady of Hanover, right? My best friend, somebody who helped me out throughout my career, not only keeping me grounded, but just changing the topic, because I don't know if all of you know Hanover 96's record, but it wasn't very good. So we lost a lot, and I needed her support. Our two girls you saw, Liv and Bella, we're still working on them, convincing them this is the right sport for them, but I have some time, and Uncle Stu will do his best as well. My mother, Mom, everything you've done for me, I will not and I cannot put in this book. There's not enough pages. The gray minivan to training every day, cutting oranges. Just being there in the first days in Germany. Christy, Gina, my sisters, the same. I'm you. You guys make me, which is excuse me, why I'm here today. So my brothers, my nieces, and nephew, thank you for joining me here today. This is truly an honor. The coaches growing up in Southern California, beating Carlos's Arsenal every year in State Cup final was truly amazing with the Nomads. Those coaches, I owe a lot to putting a seed in a young kid's head that there is a world out there full of soccer. There are leagues out there, there are stadiums out there that celebrate this game, that play it differently. And I had to know myself. And I went on a long journey, and it brought me back home. And I am trying to, and every day that I work with the Las Vegas Lights, currently giving back what I learned overseas, because I think this country has the brightest future of all of them in this sport. And thank you to all of you. Kevin, you are a soccer guy. And all of your work to build this for guys like me to give back. I did want to say a few words just about the highs and lows of this sport. And we have seen the highs on the video. We have seen all of the records and heard the records, and we're out here to celebrate some amazing athletes and people in this sport. But there are also lows, and there are also athletes who do not have a table 3 like I have, a support team like I have. And there are people every day in this country who suffer for mental illnesses, especially in sports, and most notably recently, obviously with Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka, two that have come out and gotten help. And I think it's an important topic to discuss in professional sports in general. And working as a coach today with young athletes, I see it day in and day out, not only with my team, but players in other teams, that through this society we have now, full of anxiety and social media, the pressures on these young athletes are even greater. So it's even more important that we lose the stigma about mental illnesses. And they are great. I think it's about 46 million adults in the United States suffer from mental illness and deal with it on a daily basis. And the best way to go about beating this and helping people is to understand that your head, your brain, your mental health is pretty much like another part of your body. It's another organ. If you have a sprained ankle, you stop, you get help. You take the time to let it heal. And unfortunately, in sports, we don't allow that time for people to get help if they're not ready to compete at the highest level and to put everything they have on the line. Thankfully, we've come a long way, but there's still a long way to come. And so the old ways of get through it, being mentally strong or mentally tough are hopefully archaic and are no longer used on the fields to train our athletes. So moving forward, for me, if you can, share stories, spread the word. Mental illness is only something that is there temporary and should be there temporary. I have had, unfortunately, a teammate of mine in 2009 who took his life due to depression. He just couldn't make it. But ironically enough, a few years later, another player came in and sat in the exact spot as him in the locker room, played the same position, also suffered from depression. through help and through charity, through some organizations, he made out the good side, and I'm lucky to say he is a friend today. So talk to people, share on social media the stories of people who come out the good side and spread the awareness. There are plenty of websites out there. If you need help, come tap me on the shoulder. I will point you in the right direction. There's plenty of resources out there. And lastly, I'd like to leave you with a quote from Michael Phelps. I think a lot of people have seen or read recently during the Olympics, getting help is a sign of strength and not a weakness. And I will just leave you with that today, and thank you again.
Congratulations, Steve, and thanks for using your platform to speak and raise awareness about such issues. And so with that, I thank you for being here today as we've honored Andrés, Carlos, Kevin, Jaime, and Steve. Of course, the day is not over. We have many, many more things to come, and we have breaking news right now to close the program. The National Soccer Hall of Fame will induct the class of 2022 on Saturday, May 21st, 2022, right here. The Zach Brown Band will cap that day's celebration of our soccer greats as we continue to celebrate U.S. soccer history here in Frisco. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we go. First of all, don't forget your credential when you return for the match and for the Willie Nelson concert later tonight. That will give you access to the stadium, the Gallagher Club, and the Hall of Fame when you return. If you didn't have a chance to visit earlier, by the way, the Hall of Fame exhibits will remain open from now until the start of the second half of tonight's game between FC Dallas and Minnesota United. For those of you returning to the hotel before the game and concert, the hotel shuttles will depart from just outside the Hall of Fame main entrance, and the return trips begin at 6 p.m. At this time, we'd like to ask all of the Hall of Famers and Colin Jose Media Award winners to please join us on the stage for a group photo. And with that, I bid you thank you and good afternoon, and have a rest of your day. Have a great day.